Hey guys, welcome to the Salty Trips channel. I'm Chris, this is Kim, and this is our RV travels, trucks and trailers and towing channel. And today we are going to be installing a 24 volt Victron MultiPlus-II inverter in here with a 24 volt battery. And we didn't go 12 volt, and later we'll explain why, and we'll show you step by step how we put this in and get it running and the reasons why. But let's get to it. We got a lot of stuff to do. I don't know how many of these videos we watched about these kind of installations, and how many times when people like later down on the road said, what would I have done differently? Almost every single one of them said they wish they would 24 volt. But we're going to show you exactly how I do this step by step. Granted, I'm not a professional electrician. This is not a how-to video. This is a how we did it, and hopefully it'll help you do your own research to make sure you're doing things properly. Stick around and we'll put this all together, and we'll meet you back at the end. Why did we choose the 24 volt over the 12 volt? And some people say the 24 volts a little cheaper because you can use smaller wire. And why is that? That's because with the higher voltage, the lower amperage you need. Basically, wattage is volts times amp equals watts. So this 24 volt 200 amp hour battery is the same equivalent to 4 12 volt 100 amp hour batteries. So that packs a lot of punch into this little box. So I save a lot of space by, instead of having four of those 12 volt batteries, I have one 24 volt battery. First thing we're going to do is I got this board here to put in there to screw everything to. We're just going to paint it black so it looks nice. All right, now we got that up in there. We're going to install the Lynx distributor, then the Lynx shunt. That we'll just kind of figure out where we want to put that and install that up in there, and then we'll start the wiring. And these two just bolt together like this. So I just got to take these nuts off and then bolt those up, and then I'll put this on in one unit. I'm not sure exactly where I want, because we have to save room for some MPPT charge controllers for solar eventually down the road, but we're not worried about that for now. We are just getting, power to the system. And I got a 600 amp switch right here that I'm going to mount as close to the positive cable as I can. This will act as the fuse straight from the battery. All right, now we have the Servo GX, and this is the thing that makes everything talk to one another. And we'll put a screen up inside, which will let us, know how much power is coming in, going out, and let us control a lot of stuff. And we'll probably mount that one right there. All right, so next step is we're going to make some power cables, some negative and a positive, to run over here and go up in here to our Victron MultiPlus. So we'll measure those up and cut them. And with a 24 volt system, you could probably get away with 1 aught, but this is a 2 aught cable. And if you're running 12 volt, you need probably at least a 4 aught cable just to be safe. So we're gonna cut these, crimp them, and put them in. And the Victron comes with these grommets right down here that so you just kind of guess about what size that is, then hack it off. Trying to keep it somewhat watertight in there. And we're going to put a 400 amp fuse on here. Alright, so now we have this on-off switch, and I've already crimped these to length. How we're going to put these in, I guess you don't need to see me crimp every single one of these things, so I'll leave the crimper that I use in the description area below. I mean, we got some roosters right next door. But anyway, so we're going to put this thing in, and this goes to the power, this goes to the linked shunt and distributor, so we'll put that in. And this power will go right here, and we'll wait to hook that up last. All right, so now we got our negative, and we're gonna slap this sucker on here. That will go right there. And then you just take this little cable and connect it to, from the shunt to the links distributor. And it's pretty simple, plug and play, and just tug that away, and you put these two little cables right there, so when you put the lid back on, it doesn't smush it. All right guys, obviously I'm splitting this up into a couple of day project because I'm wearing a different shirt. And today is, we are going to, well, first of all, this is our 50 amp cable that we bought online, and it was just easier to get an extension cable than to actually buy cable, because I needed a rush order and this is the only one available. This is 25 feet. So this one, so we need two of those. One's going to go from the existing wire, come up through here and in, and then it's going to, you know, bypass through that whole system and then come back out, and then we're going to send it back through, and it's going to attach to the circuit breakers inside. So we need one line going from basically where the circuit breakers are now all the way over to here, and then in through the inverter, then out, then back into the circuit breakers. So we're going to run two of these up through a hole we put up in here, and it's going to come out there. We're going to run it up along here and there, and then back in yonder for the circuit board, which comes out right there. So these are all our main lines right here. There's no power to this thing at all right now, but you know, these are our four main 50 amp lines. That's our ground, line 1, line 2, and then our neutral. So we're just going to pull that off, and I'll show you how we're going to tie that together. And before you start taking this stuff apart, it's pretty simple, but in case you need to remember, just take a picture with your phone too, so you know what goes where. So I've ran this cable and this cable through. So I got a goes in and goes out, and you know, goes in, goes out. But I marked one with a red cable tie here, and I have the other end marked with the red cable tie too, so that I know which one's going in, which one's going out when I hook it up over here. All right, so I'm going to use this one to connect from shore power to the inverter. And these don't have quite as much line taken out as I would like, and I'm going to connect these with these big giant wire nuts. But we're going to take a little more of the coating off, and we're going to marry these up together, and I'll show you how I do that. See, I already got one of these together, and we are going to put another one. Actually, you know what, I'm just going to tape these all together so that makes it easier to handle. But we're gonna, let's splice this next one, the red ones. Like I said, we want at least an inch or so. And just like that one, we're gonna tape it together. Alignment pliers to just kind of smush these in together. And then these big blue wire nuts to smush them together. And then just tape them together so nothing comes loose. Let's see. So now we got all this mess wired together, pretty solid. We're just going to push this back up in here, and then we're going to feed this one. No. Cut off the insulation about a 1/2 inch, and then I'm just going to push this back in here, and then just put these back right where I got them from. Sweet. All right, so that's our everything's wired back up in here, so we'll go get it in the inverter. So this is the red zip tie. So this line is going to go up into the in, and this is going to be the out. So this one will go in the out. So we'll just wire this up in there, and I'll show you how that's done. And we are going to wire up this way and then go this way, because it'll be easier. Like, instead of having wires all the way up in here and then trying to fight it, do this side first. That way your hand's free to just go boom, 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 boom. 8 inches of sheet of insulation off of here. L1, or yeah, L1, L2, ground, neutral. And you want to take about an inch off of these things, at least 3/4 to an inch of insulation. And then you gotta, there's a little hole right here. You gotta jam a tiny screwdriver up in there. And it opens up the hole. And a little tug test, make sure it doesn't come out. All right, so that's the wiring, and you leave that little excess so you can get it up in there, and you don't want any wires sticking out so it can't ground on anything or pop off. So make sure you have it way up in there and give it a good tug test. It should not pull out. Once you pull this out, you should be able to give it a good tug, and it's not going anywhere. And then we'll pull another one through here. All right, so we got it all wired up. Just took a little time. But this one fit through the second hole, so I just had to feed the wires up through it and crimp the wires down onto it, so it should be fine. Good tug test on each one of these. The little wires are here sticking out, you don't want them touching each other, so that should be good to go. Neutral, L2, green, ground, L1, neutral, L2, ground, L1. So L1 and L2 are the 250 amp lines that are coming in hot. Now I'm just putting power to the Servo GX, and for some reason the package didn't come with the original wires, but it did come with wires for like a sending unit. So I was able to kind of jerry rig it to work, and I put my own. It's supposed to come with a 3 amp fuse, so I have my own 3 amp fuse I put in here, and we're gonna just stick it in here and power it down. Tilt it down, and we're gonna wire up the screen for the Servo GX. Okay, I didn't record this, but I just drilled a hole. I found out where there's a pass-through down here in the hallway, and it goes straight down into the undercarriage down there. There was nothing, so I just made sure. I'll show you that real quick. But I just put up the template and drill the appropriate holes, screw it to there, and it's got these little clips that one goes on this close to this end, and this other one goes close to the other end of the HDMI port. So we'll stack that on, but we'll run the cables. I'll show you that. Like I said, I just found this little spot right over there where it comes through, and I got the cable right here. And of course, it's not long enough, so we're gonna route it up through here, and then I have an extension USB cord and an extension HDMI cord. All right, so I've just got some little clamps. I've just got the extenders run here, just run it out, and then back into the front bay. All right, so we're gonna plug in this, I believe it's right there. That's just the Ethernet cable that's gonna talk to the Servo GX, and that one just connects in over here, the VE bus, the HDMI, and then the power USB. 50-50 shot. And we're just going to plug in the Ethernet cable to the shunt up here to the Servo GX, and you have to button up those ends with these terminating clips. Put one in here and then one in here, because we only have one device. If you have more than that, you can just go in series, and then the last one and the front one had to have an extra termination plug. And we'll just clean up these wires a bit. Well, I do owe somebody an apology, because it did come with the power cable for the Servo GX. It just must have got lost in the shuffle in the box of crap I had. I thought I shuffled that thing a couple times, and so it reappeared. So we're gonna hook up the original wires that are supposed to go with. You can plug this up to a 24 volt, 48 volt, 36 volt, whatever, pretty much. So you don't have to dumb it down to a 12 volt just to power this. All right, now I got that rewired up, and it's got that 3 amp fuse in line there. We're just gonna leave that be, and now all we really have left to do is put on the fuse, which I have a 200 amp fuse, which you might be thinking, okay, that's a little small, but you got to remember, this isn't a 12 volt system. This is a 24 volt system. At 3000 watts, this pushing at 24 volts, you should be pushing max 187 amps. So anything over that, this will blow and protect the battery. And this inverter is only supposed to work at a service load of about 2400 watts, like continuous. So 2400 watts divided by 24 volts, that's only 100 amps. So it should technically only pull about 100 amps at max working load on this thing. All right, so now all we have left to do is hook up these battery cables. All right, guys, so now is the moment of truth. All right, so now all that's left to do is turn it on. Hope I hooked everything up right. I've double checked everything. everything should be good and secured. So we're going to turn this battery on and see what happens. We got power, and I don't have the inverter on yet, so I will turn that on. Inverter's on, lights up. Oh, the lights came on, microwave, so it's providing juice in here.
You can see I can work.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Just don't turn anything on yet until I'm gonna do some of the settings real quick on the computer. In order to change the settings in the MultiPlus, it uses an Ethernet cable that you already got plugged into the Servo GX. I'll just unplug it from there, and you have to use this little dongle. It's a MK3 USB adapter for that. And just plug it into there. And if you got one of the newer MacBooks, you know they don't have any USB ports, well, regular ones, so you have to have a USB-C adapter. Stick that on there, and then we'll plug that in. Open up this Victron Connect app, and I am going to connect to my phone so I can update the software on here. And also, you're just going to want to go up to the settings too, and hit these three little dots. Go to product info, and then click update, and it'll update the firmware. All right, every battery is just a little bit different, so you're going to have to go in here and change the settings for your battery and charging needs to what it requires. And you just go into like your user manual, and like this wants to charge, I think, at 40 amps, and it's set to current charge at 70 amps, so we'll have to dial that down a little bit. All right, so you should be able to unplug that. That's all set. You can always go back and deal with that more if we need to, but I think we got most of the settings we need all set on that. All right, guys, we got the rear AC going, and that's pushing 1200 watts plus whatever lights and stuff we have on. So we're inverting, our AC load is 1200 watts, which is not too bad. So hey, it's doing its job. And they're 110 AC. It's not 12 volt or gas. It's already getting cold pretty quick. It's getting chilly. All right. So that's the main reason why we wanted to get this inverter system set up before we started camping, is so when we unplug from shore power, this 110 will die. And so the inverter will keep it running while we move from place to place, and it'll give us a little bit of extra, you know, we can still use the microwave and stuff like that if we're boondocking or something like that. But eventually it'll come for solar, and all that will come eventually. So we're working on it. So stay tuned, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Make sure, you know, you're following all our adventures, and we'll update you as we go and take you along the ride. The reason we went 24 volt over 12 volt is, I don't know how many of these videos we watched about these kind of installations, and how many times when people like later down on the road said, what would I have done differently? Almost every single one of them said they wish they went 24 volt. And there's one of the major reasons for that is you double the volts of a 12 volt to 24, and you cut the amps in half. So this draws a lot less amps. And you know, I oversized the wires just a little bit so that to make sure that everything stays cool. And like this thing is running right now. It's pulling about 500 watts inside right now because it's running the fridge and everything. But all the wires are cool to touch. You know, there's nothing even remotely warm in here right now. The other thing is this 24 volt, 200 amp hour battery. Look at the size of this thing. That is the equivalent of 4 12 volt 100 amp hour batteries. So I can get 2 of these, or get another one of these. I have 10,000 watt hours of battery there. You know, we left the 12 volt system in here. It's got the, I think they're just some AGM batteries or whatever, but eventually we're going to go away with this too and put a 12 volt lithium battery in here, and it's going to take up very little space and save some weight. But this is still running all the 12 volt system and stuff like that, so it stays separate. And that's another reason why we went with the Victron setup. I wanted to bulletproof it as much as possible and future proof it as much as possible too. So you know, I went ahead and just got the system that's going to be the most easy to upgrade, because like when we put solar in, I can just put a couple of MPPT charge controllers up here and just wire it in right here, and we're good to go. So it's pretty simple to upgrade. Like I said, I'm not an expert. This is not a how-to, this is how we did it. But everything's working just right. We did a ton of research on, I know the basics of electricity and how it should run. So I hope this gave you some insight. Thanks for coming along. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up, and you know, follow our next adventures, and we'll see you guys next week.